Hi everybody, this is Natalie Willis, founder of The Baby Sleep Trainer. I have helped thousands and thousands and thousands of families get their babies to sleep through the night and take healthy naps. I'm hoping that you're watching this video when you are in the midst of sleep training, looking at your video monitor with your baby crying. That is what this video is for. If you're watching this video and you're not doing that, but you may be doing that at some point in the future, you probably want to save this one, because this is what I tell my clients when they are in the midst of the crying, and I hope that it's going to help you. So first of all, I acknowledge that you are feeling pretty terrible right now, especially if you are a mom that has biologically given birth to this baby, and really even when you're not, or if you're a dad. Your brain is sending signals out into your body that there is an emergency. So your baby's cry triggers the same part of your brain as when you hear a car alarm or a smoke alarm. Those pitches, they're not arbitrary. They're designed to trigger the panic response in your brain. So you're like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. What should I do? That's what your baby's cry triggers in you. So you might be experiencing like cold sweats, a racing heart. I would probably experience the nervous poops myself when my stomach starts to get really messed up, and then I feel like I'm gonna throw up or just feel really, really terrible. So you physically feel awful. I want to acknowledge that you are feeling that, and that is normal, and it doesn't mean that anything is wrong with your baby. It just means that this is the response you're having to your baby's cry. The other thing to keep in mind when you're listening and you're hearing this is that you may be like a pretty logical, analytical person, but your judgment and your ability to be logical is clouded when you are listening and when you're hearing that crying. So if you're wondering why, like, I know I wanted to sleep train because I knew it was good for my baby, and I know that I talked to my doctor beforehand and they said it was safe, and I know that my sister did it and my friends, and you know what, I even know I did this with my other kid and they're right here and totally happy and healthy, but right now I'm feeling really, really upset by this. Acknowledge that it is a chemical reaction, response that your brain is having and putting into your body, okay? Remember why you did this. Why did you decide to pursue sleep training? It's probably to address something that is really not working in your home for your family, and if it's probably making you unhealthy, it's probably making your baby unhealthy, their lack of sleep or their sleep issues. So going back for a moment and thinking about why you're doing this can be really helpful. If you have a partner or another caretaker that's there with you, acknowledge that because the listening to the crying is what can be so triggering to you, if you have a partner or a caretaker who is not triggered in the same way, it is okay for you to put earbuds in. I tell families a lot to like listen to their favorite album, watch your baby through the monitor, make sure someone else can hear, making sure that they're okay and safe. But don't force yourself to listen to the crying if you're finding that it's really, really upsetting for you. It's okay to listen to your favorite song, take your earbuds out or your headphones out, and then watch, and listen to the baby for the break in between the songs to kind of hear what's going on, and then going back to listening to something else, because that's going to make it so that you are able to tolerate this. The longer that you listen to it, sometimes like the harder it can be for your body to sustain that over time. Your baby's cries are doing absolutely nothing other than expressing frustration with what's happening. No matter what anybody tells you, sleep training done safely and properly and following a good method and done with your pediatrician's approval of whatever method you're using is not harming your baby. No matter what anyone tells you, there is no scientific evidence that proves in any way, shape, or form that crying for the purposes of sleep training harms your baby. If anybody tells you differently, they are probably willfully misinterpreting data, or they don't really understand the data that they're purporting to use to tell you that this is harming your baby. It's really not harming your baby at all. They are frustrated at having to learn a new skill. Sleep training really comes down to your child learning how to fall asleep independently for naps and bedtime, so that they're able to put themselves back to sleep when they wake up overnight. Waking up overnight frequently is normal for humans of all ages, but if your baby doesn't know how to fall asleep for their naps and bedtime, they're not going to know how to fall back to sleep overnight. So as they're learning this skill of going from being awake to being asleep without your help, they're going to express that they're frustrated, and babies express a huge range of negative feelings, whether they're hungry, tired, frustrated, crabby, whatever, with crying, right? So they're gonna express every negative feeling with crying. So they're frustrated. They're not feeling abandoned by you. This is really not about you. This is about them and their frustration at having to learn a new skill. If you're sleep training right now and you're not using the baby sleep trainer method, and you're using a method that encourages you to separate nighttime and daytime training, and you're experiencing a lot of crying, I would suggest that you reevaluate separating your nighttime and your daytime training. I suggest that families always keep their nighttime training starting at bedtime first and going right into naps the next day, because that will reduce crying overall. So if you're experiencing a lot of crying over several nights and you're not really sure why it's getting better, it might be for that reason if you have those two things separated. If you are using the baby sleep trainer method to sleep train your baby, know that the most intense period of crying typically happens within the first 48 hours. The method is designed to get babies to fall asleep as quickly as possible, learning the skill of independent sleep. The method used will help you concentrate all of that really intense crying in those first 48 hours. And also, using the baby sleep trainer method actually helps your baby get through the process with the least amount of tears possible in totality. So even though it's concentrated in those first 48 hours, it also tends to be just less overall than when using other methods. Regardless of whatever method you're using, another really important thing to do is to track your baby's crying. Because what you'll see, especially if you're doing naps and nighttime simultaneously, is that if your method is working, their sleep duration is going to increase and their crying duration is going to decrease. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Sometimes if your baby is crying for 5 or 7 minutes, all you're feeling is that they're crying. You're not really connecting that, well, but that's actually significantly better than it was a few days ago. So tracking your baby's progress, all of it, the crying and the sleep, will help you see that whatever you're doing is actually working and their crying is reducing overall. Just keep telling yourself that this is healthy for your baby to do and safe as long as your pediatrician approves, and that it absolutely will end. Every second can feel like a minute and every minute can feel like an hour. So if you can just get through the training, your child is going to experience really healthy sleep for the rest of their childhood and really for the rest of their life, because you're really giving them this gift of allowing them to learn how to fall asleep independently.